About to leave, already packing, come with me, I'm not really asking, we'll get away to a place where we don't know.
On the Celebrity Solstice, on the morning of June 13th, bright and early, I wedged myself into a little cubby hole on the top deck where I tried to shelter from the icy rain and the bone-chilling cold. I was in my viewing spot before 6:30 a.m., and I kicked myself a bit for forgetting to grab some coffee before posting up on the deck. I could have popped back down to grab a cup or two, but honestly, after that initial thought, and even with the rain and the wind, there was no way I was leaving for a second. I didn't want to miss anything. I had made up my mind to see and experience the glacial tidewaters and the glacially carved mountains as we quietly and slowly made our way inland toward Dawes Glacier. I knew from listening to the onboard naturalist that all of the mountains that we saw beside the ship that had points on the top had never had glaciers above them. All of the mountains that we saw that were rounded and shoulder-like at one point had all had glaciers slowly carve over the top of them and grind their way past. I spent a lot of time that morning thinking about the ebb and flow of the giant glaciers over the millennia and the ice that had been exactly where I was standing many times. My pictures don't do the mountains justice. These giant, solid, mounding heaps of granite touch the sky in some places. They wear crowns of mist and fog and snow and rest their feet in the jade-colored glacial waters. The ocean waves occasionally lap up onto the bases of the mountains, almost like bowing in reverence to trees and rocks, or maybe even like how you pat somebody on the back that you haven't seen for a long time. The long line of these glacial mountains that we had to pass before we got to the glacier felt like sentinels. At one point, an excursion boat broke the horizon, carrying what I imagined to be people who were much colder and much wetter than I was on my place in the ship. A few years ago, we had the opportunity to drive through the Grand Tetons, Yosemite, and Glacier National Park. There would be a turnout by a waterfall, and there would be 40 cars, and it'd be really hard to make your way up to the waterfall. And it occurred to me when I was on the top deck of that ship that I was looking at thousands of Yosemite and Teton and Glacier National Park quality waterfalls and vistas that was a little bit overwhelming. If you are on the fence about planning your Alaska vacation, I would urge you to consider something like this. It can be very easy to see the things that I saw and not be cold and wet. The Solstice has a sky observation lounge where below me at that moment people were buying breakfast cocktails, having lattes, sitting in comfy armchairs, looking at the exact same things I was looking at myself. I wasn't able to stay inside of the Sky Lounge because I wanted to do some still photography and some videography, and I couldn't do that with the rain hitting the windows. It just made my pictures too blurry. And then there it was. After a few moments, the big ship started to turn in a perfect pirouette so that everyone on all decks, even people on verandas, could see the entire vista. I think I'll wrap this short video up with a quote from John Muir about Alaska. Here we go. Out of all the cold darkness and glacial crushing and grinding comes this warm, abounding beauty and life to teach us that what we in our faithless ignorance and fear call destruction is creation finer and finer.
Take my hand, we'll make it somehow, we can't miss out.